What's up, everybody? I'm gonna update you guys to what's going on in my life and stuff because I haven't done that in a while. So, recently, I've been learning about the cold because all other times in my life that I was in the cold, I had central heating, right? Whereas in the house we're living in right now, you have to heat each room individually. And this was a big learning curve for me because I definitely felt like I'd gotten some good balance into my life. I was starting to get more physical activity. I was getting outside. And I kind of was really realizing and following through with the fact that if I stay home, I feel depressed. If I just go outside in the beginning of the day, even if it's just to want to come back home, I don't get as depressed. It's like super easy. And that honestly, a lot of the frustration in my life right now comes from the fact that I know how simple it is to actually be happier. It's just about having the right habits, right? And so I'd gotten into the rut of that, have gotten some momentum going, and then it got really cold. And suddenly I started finding that, I didn't want to move because I hadn't taken the time in the past to make sure that the room that I'm currently in is hot enough. So right now, I'm going through that learning curve of experiencing what that's like, and that kind of threw me off for a bit. But now I'm pretty much back into being more balanced, and honestly, this is the most balance I've ever had in my entire life, and that feels really good for me. Because for a long time, I've been focusing on structure and regularity and routine and talking a lot about how important that is to me. But I found that I wasn't often able to keep it in my life for various different reasons, often out of my control, to be honest. And this is really the first time in my life that I've lived alone and I'm single. And I don't live alone, but I have my own space. I've always lived with other people in the same room, or at least for a long time, for the majority of the past 5 or 6 years. So I haven't had a space that is me who's making it, and there's not other people interacting with it really. And I won't say that that's something that I want. It's definitely way easier to be happier if you're living with people you like and are cool. And that's definitely what I want personally. But it has been really useful for me to have this time to just see what I'm like when I am alone. Because I'm alone a lot in Wheeling, more than I'd been in the past, really, at least recently, especially with all the, I've been traveling and visiting people and all these things. And I live with my best friend, one of my best friends, and his fiance. But they aren't around a whole lot. His fiance is really busy, so she works a full-time job, part-time job, and then goes to school as well. And Hasib, he actually just left his job at Starbucks, so he's gonna have more time. But I'm leaving in 2 weeks, and so that's another thing. So first, let me just this is gonna be a longer video. I'm just gonna pour out everything, guys. Okay, so just wanted to share some stuff about that. But let me show you the room that I'm spending all of my time in now, because it's actually different. That's my room in there behind those doors. I haven't been in there in a while. I'll go in there real quick and show you, but it's really cold. So I'm opening the door, and this is the cold hallway. Now it's freezing. I call this going outside. See, it's all dark. And then here is my room. But again, I haven't been in here recently because I just, there's a computer and stuff. And I have 2 weeks to pack everything up and squirrel it away into the various storage spots in this house. They're being so kind as to let me keep things here as long as I pay the internet bill. So I'm just going to keep doing that. And they're going to turn it into a guest room or something. But I'm putting that off. I should probably actually do that today. That would be a good thing to do today. I like having projects. But I got to turn that room into a guest room, basically. But I'm not in there at all. That's technically my room. But, because this heater works, and this is the living room, and I don't have a bed, it really, it's easier for me to just be in here all the time. So I basically live in here, okay? This is, I've been playing Dark Souls 3. I'm at an interesting point with my video game use because I used to be obsessed about streaming it. And I felt like anytime I was playing a video game, I should also be streaming the game as well, because why not, right? And I definitely got a lot of experience with that. But I think in my life, it's probably good to deviate away from video game content for a while and just focus on tutorials, how-tos, and connecting people. Because really, that's the thing that brings... Yo, what up? This is Hasib.
Hello.
I'm doing an update video. Because those are the things that I think people actually watch my content for, is like to learn something specific, or for like the enthusiasm and encouragement, or because of my ability to connect other individuals who can bring some kind of insight. I think that's the kind of the core of what makes my channel what it is. So I can change the content, like I can change the subject matter. I can change it from dropshipping to Udemy to other things. And from my perspective, that's fine. That's within what I expect of myself and my channel. But I don't want my channel to ever deviate away from like showing how to do things and like tutorial and how-to style. That's kind of what I want, that coupled with the enthusiasm and then also the Skype calls with other people. I really like those, and it helps me connect with my audience a lot more. So, if you're listening to this, look at that, you've gotten to 6 minutes. That means you're less than most people, because most people are only going to watch for the first, like, 30 seconds to 4 or 5 minutes. So, that was a good time to say, if you want to do a Skype call, it's free. You can look in the description, click on Show More, and then there's a Calendly link that you can click on, and then you can pick a time to do a call with me, and we can talk about anything that you want. I can ask you a bunch of questions, I could interview you, or you could ask me a bunch of questions, or we could just have a conversation about any topic you want. And yeah, check it out, it's in the description. And I'm saying that now because you've watched to this point of the video, so that means you have a closer connection to me than most other people. So it's interesting how you can time when you pitch certain things in your video, and it reaches different demographics within your audience. Like if you say something in the very, very beginning of the video, it's going to reach your audience as a whole. Whereas when you talk about things deeper into the videos and the parts that most people aren't watching, then you can reach the more kind of, the part of your audience who kind of relates to you more at your core, right? It's really interesting. So, what else has been going on? So, what the heck? Where's... Oh, okay, that's the puppy. Sorry. She's adorable. Really, really adorable. Her name's Lily. That is Hasib and Kelly's puppy. So I've talked to you about what's going on with YouTube. I talked to you about video game stuff. Okay, I didn't get into the positive part of the video games. So, I really enjoy games like Dark Souls. They have like a reputation for being really hard. But that's kind of misleading, because it's not just that they're hard, it's that they punish you for rushing. And a recurring theme in my life in particular is that I rush things too much and I need to be more patient. Most of the time, I find that I can always figure out the solution if I'm patient. And I just wait and observe and keep trying. The solution always comes. But sometimes I rush and I make the same mistakes over and over again. And instead of taking a step back and thinking about it, I just keep going. And that inherently, in Dark Souls, kills you. Like, you can't play that game that way. Because you can make a mistake once in Dark Souls and that's fine. But if you make the same mistake twice, then you lose all your progress. So it's like designed to be like, it's okay to fuck up, but don't fuck up twice. That's really bad. And I find that that's really valuable in my life. Like, I use games like Dark Souls as a mirror because it shows me what my current mental state is, which can give me some insight into what kind of work would be best right now. Like, if I'm super scattered or something, then, like, working on that room and moving all the furniture around and taking it somewhere else, that's perfect, because I can just look, be like, okay, what's the biggest object? Okay, that's the biggest object. I'm going to move that. What's the next biggest object? Okay, that. Like, it's very easy. I don't have to think about it much. Where if you're talking about, like, being enthusiastic and making a course or making video, then there's certain kinds of emotion that is necessary for that kind of work, right? And sometimes I find that I'm unable to tell how I really am feeling. I think I can tell, but I'm like stuck in my head. So playing a game like Dark Souls or something really helps me, because I'll see, okay, I just tried to do the same thing to that monster and it didn't work 3 times and died and just rushed into it. I am rushing. I need to slow my mind down, maybe do some exercise so that I can like catch or balance my mindset, right? Whereas sometimes, like, I'm doing really well in Dark Souls, and then it's like, okay, I'm currently really focused. Maybe what could I do with this current mindset that I have that's more relevant? And typically, if I'm really focused, that would be creating video, because then I can understand what I'm trying to articulate and create something, right? So, for example, in this video, like, I'm trying to just touch on all of the major forces in my life right now. So I've talked about, like, video games. I've talked about, like, the fact that it's cold and that kind of thing. About what I believe my YouTube channel is at its core. Also about balance, right? So some more things that have been in play recently. I should probably talk about skateboarding. Because I've been skating, like, super, super regularly. And it's been a really useful tool, to be honest. So let me talk about that for a second. I feel like I gotta like show my skateboard while I'm doing that. So I got a skateboard like 2 months ago, I think, actually. And it really has made me realize that I didn't really ever get enough physical activity in my life. And that was definitely a contributing factor to a lot of the fatigue that I experienced, because there's this like endorphin rush that just feels good that you get from a moderate amount of like cardiovascular activity, right? You want to be a little bit out of breath every day, a couple times every day, ideally. And you don't have to do it for like hours, but like you should have like 3 or 4 15-minute periods every day where you're like out of breath because you're exercising in some way. Like for me personally, I can't like lift weights and do that because I find that really boring. But skateboarding's amazing because I have this thing that I can work on and a group of people who do it in Nicaragua that I want to like spend more time with and be more like. So it's another way to relate to them, right? And like, so I can work on that while also getting exercise, while also coping with whatever emotional state I'm in. And that's something that I really underestimated with skateboarding, right? Like, I didn't realize how healthy it is to have one of these. And I really wish that when I was younger, I had come across a skateboard or someone had given me one. I think that would have helped me a lot, because I got most of my physical activity from walking, but I was never really a sportsy person, and I used to have a lot of insecurities about that. And like skating suits me really, really well, because like I constantly feel intimidated by like other skaters because they're able to do things, and I'm just like, whoa! Like, and a lot of that has to do with like I'm 25 and I just started skateboarding now. Like I started 2 months ago. Most people who skate like start skating between like 10 and 20, right? And they've been doing it for a while. But so I like that I feel intimidated. That is a good feeling, because then I can just throw myself at it over and over and over again. And then I know that that's good for like my progression and stuff. So that's satisfying. And also like there's a lot of time where I'm stuck in my head and I feel really nervous, and I feel like I can't make good content. I feel really insecure. And really all that is from inaction. That's just when I haven't been doing what I want to do. And I know that it would make me happy, so I get bothered by that contradiction in myself, right? And really it's just, you just do the stuff that makes you happy, and then you don't feel that way anymore. But what I find is that I can just go outside with the skateboard, and then just like it wakes my brain up, because at first I'll be like, skating, whatever. And then I'll just keep going and just do it anyway, and I feel better, and it really helps. And it's definitely one of those hobbies that has actually enabled me to be more positive and be more energetic. And that's really what I want most in my life at the moment, is to really figure out how to get all these hobbies and habits down to make myself as energetic and positive as possible, because then I become incredibly valuable to the people that I'm around, which then allows me to get much, much better results out of people. And it's just easier to be happy and feel like you have a family and everything. So I look a lot at the root cause of like these kind of things. And a lot of the root cause is you becoming more positive. Like, you can try and change your, like, the way that people perceive you and get them to think things, but ultimately you'll always lose that game eventually. It's better to just like look at your core, at what makes you who you are, and learn how to just be better to other people, and that fixes a lot of problems and stops things from happening in the first place. But I've deviated away from skateboarding, right? I'm really just trying to pour everything out into what's going on in my life right now, right? And skateboarding is playing a role in that, because it's really, what I'm finding is that I often don't skate for more than like 20-30 minutes. But even going outside and skating for like 5 or 10 minutes and then coming back, I'm able to work on stuff. I'm able to clean something. I'm able to be more awake after that. There's a lot of momentum that it's a really easy way to build up momentum, and it's a really great thing to do like in between other tasks, because it's like both relaxing but also a form of exercise, and seeing that steady, slow progression is really awesome. Like, I love that I can just do it every like 15 minutes for like 2 or 3 times a day, sometimes even 1 time a day. I do skate every day, but not, like I'm saying, not for long periods of time, right? And I find that I'm able to do things after like a week that I wasn't able to do. And it also shows me like if I went out and skated right now, I wouldn't be able to do whatever it is I was able to do yesterday, because I haven't warmed up yet. And like, I'm like, whoa, that shows that you really do have to like get into a task and warm it up before you're able to perform adequately. You know, it's really cool. And then there's so many ways to interact with skateboarding, right? Because I'm talking about what I like about it and how it makes me feel emotionally. But then there's the whole fact that like the whole community of people who inspired me in Nicaragua, they all skate. And like when I was around them before, I didn't skate at all. So I would like watch and hang out. But like they really inspired me to get into it. And I know that like if I can learn to really enjoy skating and have fun, then I'm going to get even closer to them, because that's what they do and that's what they're like, you know? So like we can bring out more of those talents in each other. And I think that's really, really healthy, because it gives like, it's like a bonding experience, you know, a sense of belonging kind of. So that's one thing. Another factor is that you can draw on skateboards, which is crazy. See, I have like a bunch of logos of my favorite companies: Google, eBay, AutoDS, Udemy, YouTube, all these things. And there's so many different ways to interact with skating. Like you can watch YouTube videos, you can go out, you can skate, you can talk to other people who skate. It's a really like immersive experience, and I really, really value that. So there's the puppy. And I think that's pretty much everything, because I talked about skating, talked about YouTube, I've talked about the Nicaraguans a little bit, why I'm going back there. Yeah, so I'm leaving in 2 weeks. I'm going back to Virginia to spend the last week of December with my mom, and then I'll also see some friends from that area before I go back to Nicaragua. And then January 1st, I'm going back to Nicaragua. So that'll be pretty cool. I'm definitely excited about the warmth a lot. And for me, it's mostly like, I guess I can end this video with all the different reasons that I think that it's best for me to be in Nicaragua. Because like, especially right now, like if you look online, like it looks horrible to go to Nicaragua. There's a lot of like, there's a political situation there, and there's a lot of inexperienced journalism that is exacerbating the political situation. It's really complicated. But like, if for a lot of you watching, if you were to research online, you would not go to Nicaragua. You would go somewhere else because you would be your perception of the danger there would stop you from going. And this is something that I guess has already existed in the States prior to going to Nicaragua, or prior to the recent political events in Nicaragua. Because like when I originally said I was going to Nicaragua for the first time, right, because I lived there for 9 months, people in my life told me I was going to die, I was going to get mugged, I was going to get kidnapped. Like, there's a lot of that vibe is just like, there's a lot of ignorance in the States about foreign countries. And like of course that stuff happens, it's true, but like it also happens here. Like, I'm from a relatively safe place in the East Coast, Reston, and like when I was in Nicaragua, like 2 people got shot in my neighborhood. Like, yet the people who I lived with in Reston told me that like I was in danger in Nicaragua, and it's like, guys, we're in danger everywhere. That's like part of life, you know. But I just wanted to bring that up because like I feel like I'm not useful right now. Like, I'm useful, my online presence is useful to people, but in my personal life, I'm very much just another person. Like, I'm very different than almost everybody I know, and I have some really close friends, but in general, I'm always very different, and that's fine. And like, that used to be true even when I had a more similar lifestyle to people. I was different in personality, but now like my lifestyle is completely different, because I don't need to work all the time, and I have all this flexibility. I can always like socialize and hang out with people if I want to, that kind of thing, or I can work on projects if I want to work on something. Like, if I went to Chris's for 5 days and just helped him work on stuff, and I made a couple YouTube videos for myself, but usually I was just working on stuff that was already going on in his business, right? And like, that's how I want to live. I want to always have that flexibility, but inherently, I think it can offend a lot of people. And I often find myself in situations in the States where I have to be really careful with how I'm talking about stuff, and I honestly usually end up just keeping quiet. Because a lot of the people in my life right now, or like a lot of the people that I know, like they're working their asses off all the time, constantly, so that they can someday retire. And from my perspective, that is incredibly ludicrously risky. Like, I would never, ever again rely on other people to provide for me anymore. Like, that's not a reality for me. Like, I don't understand why people are so obsessed with, like, it's like they want to be able to say they worked hard on something for like 12 hours a day, and like the hours that you spend working literally has nothing to do with how much you got done. It's a really stupid metric to look at how many hours you worked as a measurement of how much work you did, because the hours that you worked has nothing to do, it's not, the hours that you work just shows how much time you spent doing something. But you could spend 10 hours getting 30 minutes of work done, and that's common. Like, that happens. So by talking about the hours, you kind of deviate in the wrong way, because what you should be focused on is the actual work itself. Like, oh, I did this, and this, and this, and then I accomplished X of these. Like, that makes sense. But to obsess about the hours usually indicates that you're just trying to get other people to believe or feel that you're working hard. And so the easiest way to do that in our heads is to go like, oh, I worked for 12 hours today. So then the other person's like, oh, 12 hours is a lot. That person's been working hard, you know? Or at least that's what we'd hope that they feel. But just be careful. Be careful, okay? I got sidetracked there. So earlier in the video, I talked about that I felt most of my problems in my life come from rushing and from trying to do things too quickly, right? And inherently, this is a struggle in a lot of culture, especially in America. We're very rushed, especially in cities, super rushed. And I think this inherently causes a lot of problems. It causes a lot of inconsistencies and makes it so that we focus on the wrong things and ultimately get stuck in these cycles where we are causing the problems that we're complaining about without realizing it, right? And you don't want to be in that cycle because it's really messy and a kind of shitty way to live. And it's not the way things are meant to be, right? But it's so easy to get lost in that cycle here. Whereas a lot of people overseas, and especially in Nicaragua, that pace just wasn't really there as much. People were more likely to be laid back and relaxed, which can be dangerous if you've only ever been in that scene. But for me personally, like, I have access to all the information I need to make money. I just need motivations to make money. And I care more about other people than I do about myself in that sense because, like, I don't need that much money. I just need free time to be happy. As long as I have free time and people, then I'm fucking golden. Like, absolutely golden. So what I'm working on now is figuring out how to get myself in situations where I can do a lot for other people. And that's going to motivate me to do some more interesting and, like, high-scale, more professional things, right? And in Nicaragua, like right now, a lot of the locals have a really hard time finding work. And that was true before, and now there's less tourism there, so that's even more true now. And I'm in a position where I can provide people with work pretty easily. There is a huge amount of people in America who would benefit from a relationship with a virtual assistant who lives in a country like Nicaragua where the cost of living is really low, but they have internet access. And I have a feeling that one of the bigger things, the bigger potentials in my life is for the ability to kind of connect these people. Because if you can do this properly, you can provide a lot of work. Like, think of how many people in the States need a VA who could accomplish tasks for like 4 hours or $4 an hour. Like, that's crazy, right? And for me, that's really motivating, knowing that, like, in the States, I'm just some white guy who makes YouTube videos. Like, I'm interesting to people, but at the same time, I'm incredibly easy to judge. I got kicked out of high school. I got kicked out of college. I don't have any degrees. I don't have, like, I haven't updated my resume in, like, 6 or 7 years. I have tattoos and have no desire whatsoever to ever work for a company again. And I openly talk about that. I don't have a car. I don't have a lot of the kind of staples of what people want here, if that makes sense. Whereas in Nicaragua, I feel like I can provide so much more for people. I'm so much more useful. And that kind of shows in the relationships because I can be more meaningful to people. Like, one of my biggest concerns, and this is, I'll end the video at this actually, about being in the States, is about being positive. My dad died. I got really sick. My mom almost died. I was in a, like, I've seen a lot of crazy stuff and I've lost a lot of things, and there are a lot of reasons that I could be really bitter. But from my perspective, any time that you spend on this earth in a negative emotional state, you're wasting your life. You don't have enough time to spend your time being negative unless it's on the way to being positive. Sometimes you have to be negative to get it out to be positive. You can't just be positive all the time, but a lot of people just get stuck in the negative state and they're just creating their own problems. And, like, for me personally, it's almost always the right answer to just be cheerful, to laugh, to smile, to be positive, and to joke around a bit. That is, like, what I think the best way to be and the way to be the most encouraging and supportive is. And I find myself in the States in positions where doing this offends people because they don't think that I have the credibility. Like, they think that I'm too young to to be able to just be cheerful and positive, because that means that I haven't been through anything. And if I went through something, then that would just get wiped off. Like, they don't take the time to get to know me and understand that I went through a lot of shit, and that's why I'm cheerful and positive. And people are, like, really judgmental. And I know that, like, people are always going to judge me. That's part of life, right? But I just found that the group of people I had access to in Nicaragua, like, they valued positivity more like me, and also they had been through things personally that kind of allowed them to feel that way more. Whereas a lot of the people in America, we've had so much that, like, the things that bother us are incredibly trivial. And that's just a reality, you know? So anyway, now you guys know absolutely everything about what's currently going on with me. So, yeah. See you guys next time. Ciao!